Okay, let's try this again. You wouldn't know about this, obviously, but I've had some technical difficulties with my internet. So to record the videos, I use the Zoom application to record myself, and you need the internet connection to do that. And I've been having troubles with my connection this morning, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it's all working well now, and I can get on with today's lesson. So today's lesson is your science lesson, Wednesday, the 27th of January. Now, in science, this term, we've been looking at everything about living things. What are living things are, what the living processes are. We also did work on classification and grouping animals, and we started to look at habitats. And last week you did some good work, but some of you missed the agenda when I was talking about when you build the playground, what negatives are there, and you need to focus more on the effect that building things will have on wildlife, not just on it will become more crowded and children may have accidents on a climbing frame. It's think more about the impact that it will have on the environment. In today's lesson, we are going to look about the impact of how nature itself can have an impact on our wildlife and our sort of natural world. So today we're looking at what environmental changes can happen and what living things do to survive these changes. So by the end of the lesson, you're going to create your own animal, which will be interesting, which could survive a huge range of changes, and then think about big changes like climate change as well, which will come into it later. So a little bit about the environment. So environments do actually change. Last week, when some of you went out and did your little nature walks and had a look around your local area, you may notice that in about 10 years' time, if you did that walk again, you would notice that there would be some changes. Some changes may be man-made, and that is when we as humans do something to change the environment. So for example, many years ago, we didn't have things called motorways. Motorways was something that were built during the 50s. And of course, to build that, you would have to go through and change the landscape. HS2 railway that is being built at the moment, that is changing the environment around us. And these are man-made changes. We are making them changes. But environments also change due to nature itself. And that can happen through weather. It can just be a natural cause of things that the environment's changing. It could also be animals themselves changing the environment. A good example would be beavers. Beavers can change the landscape by building a dam in a river, and then that river then flows in a different direction, which will then change the landscape. So you have different types of change. You have man-made, which is us as humans, and then you have nature, which is anything else to do with nature. It could be weather or other animals. So that's what I've just explained there. So most changes happen regularly and do not pose a danger to living things. Okay, most of the time when we build things or when something happens in nature, or nature we don't have control of, but when we build things, we definitely do have, people will have to go through sort of what changes are going to happen to the environment. And if the local authority feels that a change is going to have a negative impact on the local environment, then they don't give planning permission for certain things. So living things have special adaptations that allow them to survive changes. Okay, so animals can actually adapt, and we can adapt as humans as well. Humans, many years ago, our ancestors used to have lots of hair on their body, but as we grew and as we realized we could take and make our own clothes, the hair on our bodies becomes really irrelevant. Its function isn't really used anymore. And then as humans, we adapted, and our bodies didn't need the hair anymore. So we're a lot less hairier. I'm not, obviously, but we're a lot less hairier than our sort of ancestors many years ago. So think about what living things have to do to cope with winter. What do we do to cope with winter? Have a think about it. So pause the video and think about, how do you think animals cope with winter? Welcome back. I know when I cope with the winter, I easily just whack on the heating and sit in a nice cozy house, and it's nice and warm, and I may put on a jumper to keep my body heat in. But animals don't have that luxury. They don't have central heating in their houses or in their habitats. So what do you think they have to do? If you said something along the lines that they may grow a winter coat, you're right. Some animals' fur gets thicker, so they grow a winter coat to survive the winter. Some animals will hibernate, and if you said that, very good, well done. They will gather lots of leaves, lots of twigs, make a nice warm barrier for them to then go into, and then they hibernate, and that means they sleep for a long time until it's warm enough for them to come back outside in the springtime. So that's what, there's a couple of things, adaptations that animals do. Now, pause the video after I've just finished speaking. Think of some changes to the environment or to a particular environment that happen naturally, so not man-made. Have a little think. Okay, I'm now going to go on to the next slide. So when you were thinking about the environmental changes that happen naturally, did you think about any of these? The seasons, the 4 seasons, okay? We've got winter, we've got spring, we've got summer, and we've got autumn. The 4 seasons in there, we don't get 4 seasons all across the world. Some countries only have summer and winter, but we're lucky enough to have 4 seasons. And in them 4 seasons, winter is very, very cold, very, you know, we've had snow just this weekend, and we may be getting more this weekend as well coming up. And it can be very wet, you know, windy. So it can be cold then. Then in spring, it gets, everything comes back to life. The leaves grow back on the trees, flowers start to grow, wildlife starts to come out because it's getting warmer and the temperature gets warmer. And then in the summer, we get nice hot weather. We walk around in shorts and t-shirts. So it gets very, very hot. And then autumn, things start to cool down a little bit, and it gets very colorful with all the different kind of leaves that fall off the trees. Some go red, orange, brown, yellow. So it's a very nice time, and it does get a little bit windier, and it may get a bit more wetter. Normally our summers are really wet, but it may get a little bit wetter, and then we go back into winter. Tides, high tides, low tides. Tides can flood, tides can push in. Tides also hit against rock faces, and as they hit against a rock face, the rock starts to crumble. This is called erosion. So tides can then actually carve out land as well. Volcanoes erupting. Yeah, when a volcano erupts, boom, I mean, it can change the landscape for miles around. And you've got to remember that when a volcano erupts, you've got lava that flows down the mountain. When that cools, that will become rock. You've also got the ash cloud. Where's that going to drop? Where's that going to fall? Is that going to damage the environment in some way? So yeah, volcanoes will, and also the heat as well come from a volcano. Definitely change the environment. Believe it or not, night and day changes. During the daytime, it's sunnier, it's a lot warmer than it is nighttime. The sun is out. So that's a big, big factor. The sun is out, providing heat and energy for lots and lots of living things. And that's why during the day, you'll see lots of creatures about. But we do get creatures that come out at nighttime as well, that you wouldn't see in the day. These are called nocturnal creatures, okay? And sometimes if you look out of the window during the daytime, you may see flowers, you may see, you know, growth happening, but in the dark, the flowers all droop down and things like that. So night and day can have an effect on the environment. And extreme weather. When you talk about extreme weather, we're talking hurricanes, we're talking tornadoes, we're talking earthquakes, earthquake maybe, cyclones, we're talking thunder and lightning, yeah? How do these change the environment? So how do some living things adapt to natural changes in their environment? So choose the correct answer in each scenario that follows. We'll play a little game. So I'm going to read out a scenario, and then you have to pick the right one. And then we'll go through and see what the answers are. So number 1, during winter, much of Canada is covered in snow. To hide from predators, a snowshoe hare will do what? And there's a picture of the hare down in the bottom. Will it A, number 1, hibernate? Or will it 2, change from having brown fur to white fur? Write down your answer. Okay, number 2. At night, a tulip flower will close up. Now, does it do this to stop the dew from getting the pollen wet? And dew is that sort of moisture in the air that we get in the morning. Or is it for 2, to protect it from frost? Interesting. So which one do you think it is? I've just put down there at the bottom that both of these theories could be correct. Scientists aren't really sure why, but they are considered both a possibility. So it doesn't matter which one you put down, really. Now, dormice survive the cold winter by doing what? Do they hibernate for 6 months, or do they grow thicker fur? And this one here, to cope with less available food during winter, a squirrel will do what? Fatten up over the summer so it doesn't need to eat? Or does it spend the whole summer and autumn storing food for the winter months? I know the answer to it. Okay, here are the answers. A snowshoe hare, actually, it says number 2 here, which is it will camouflage itself from changing its brown fur to white fur. A very ingenious adaptation that it has there. So it protects itself from the predators by camouflaging itself, by changing its fur to white so it can blend in with the snow. Very, very clever. At nighttime, a tulip will close up because both of these reasons are acceptable. To protect it from frost and to stop the pollen getting wet. Now, dormice survive the cold winter by actually hibernating for 6 months, and a squirrel will spend the whole of their summer and autumn collecting nuts and storing them in places so that when it comes to winter, they've got lots of food to keep them nice and warm and keep their energy up. So well done if you got all of them correct. And there is a picture of the snowshoe hare in the winter. Now, here are your tasks for today. Every single one of you, and remember with these tasks, you should expect, they're 3 different challenges. Everyone should really be doing challenge 1. And then if you want to push yourself further, you can either do challenge 2 or challenge 3. All right, challenge 3 being the more push one. There's no expectation to do all 3. Number 1, design a living thing, plant or animal, that could survive all the natural environmental changes listed in the introduction. Now, if you're struggling with that, I only pick one natural area environment change in that introduction, and I'm going to go back to that and show you where to go to get that slide in a minute. You could label the parts of your animal to help to give a bit of information about how they survive. And for the last challenge, if you want to do it, research the phrase climate change and what does that mean. Okay, ask a grown-up at home maybe to help you with that. And climate change is something that is going on all the time, and it happens naturally, but it also we as human beings are contributing to climate change as well. So remember, you all should be aiming to do task 1, and then if you want your further challenge, move on to task 2 and 3. But there's no expectation to do all 3. Now, just to quickly show you, if you go into Teams and if you go into our resources for home learning, and we go to the so I don't know why this is called comprehension work. We go to the week of the 25th of January. We look it up here and we can see our science lesson, the 27th of January. We click on this and this will take us to a picture of all the different type of weathers. It doesn't have night and day, but what we do have here is the 4 seasons, volcano eruption, tides, and we have then extreme weather. So you can do about an animal that can combat, that has adaptations for all of these, but if you're struggling, pick maybe one of them, okay? And think about an animal that can do one or maybe two. All right. So good luck with that. I hope that helps, and enjoy the science lesson, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.